You know, some companies just seem to be bulletproof. They face total collapse, massive scandals, public humiliation, and yet somehow they don't just survive, they come out even more powerful. Today, we are diving deep into the story of one of those giants, UBS, the Swiss bank that has literally shaped global finance through its mastery of dominance, discretion, and just sheer survival.
All right, let's just jump right into the fire. In 2009, the US government drops this absolute bombshell. And look, this wasn't just some accusation. This was a declaration of war against a century of Swiss banking secrecy. This was the moment that a system designed to live in the shadows was dragged, kicking and screaming, into the light. And it set the stage for a dramatic, global showdown.
But you have to ask, how does a bank even get into a position to orchestrate a scheme this massive? Well, to understand that, we have to go back, way back. You see, the power of UBS was built on a foundation forged in the chaos of World War II, the legendary, untouchable Swiss bank secrecy.
This period right here, it transformed Swiss bank secrecy from just a business model into a national shield. Think about it. As Europe is literally burning, Switzerland becomes the world's vault. Money from all sides flooded in, and this forced UBS into a really disturbing dual role. On one hand, they were securing assets for Jewish families desperately fleeing persecution, but on the other, they were laundering looted gold for the Nazi regime. So when the war finally ended, Switzerland was untouched. Its banks were stuffed with cash, and its reputation as the ultimate safe haven was set in stone for decades to come.
And for decades, this model worked like a charm. But by the 1990s, the giant that had weathered world wars was starting to look, well, slow, bloated, and dangerously complacent. The cracks were starting to show, making it vulnerable to attacks from the outside and, even more dangerously, from within.
So UBS suddenly finds itself in this pressure cooker. Its biggest rival, Credit Suisse, was everything it wasn't. It was nimble, it was modern, it was aggressively expanding across the globe. While UBS was stuck in its old, stuffy ways, Credit Suisse looked like the future. And this vulnerability, it caught the eye of an activist investor named Martin Ebner. He saw a sleeping giant, and he started buying up shares, absolutely determined to force a revolution.
Just as all this external pressure was building, an internal time bomb went off. It came from a single trader, a guy named Rami Goldstein. His desk was basically a black box. He was running trades so complex that nobody in senior management really understood the risk they were taking on. And when the market turned, his models just collapsed. The loss was catastrophic. 650 million Swiss francs. Gone.
The timing of this Goldstein scandal could not have been worse. UBS was already in merger talks with its other rival, the Swiss Bank Corporation, or SBC. That massive loss completely flipped the power dynamic. What was supposed to be a merger of equals became a full-blown takeover. SBC, the smaller but much sharper bank, took control. Sure, they kept the prestigious UBS name, but make no mistake, this was an acquisition.
All right, so the new, jumbo-sized UBS is born, a supposed global superbank. But instead of kicking off an era of dominance, it was about to enter a period of just profound crisis. Past sins were about to resurface, and new disasters would bring it to the absolute brink of total collapse.
First up, the ghosts of the past came knocking, loudly. The bank's controversial role during World War II was exposed, leading to this global outcry over dormant accounts that belonged to Holocaust victims. The public reckoning was intense, and it ended with a massive settlement. The price tag for its past sins? $1.25 billion. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, oh boy, it did. The 2008 global financial crisis hit, and UBS was right at the epicenter. The bank had bet the farm on toxic U.S. subprime mortgages, and when that market imploded, the losses were astronomical, the largest of any European bank. The total write-down was over $50 billion. Just let that sink in. I mean, the bank was circling the drain. It was on the verge of failure. With absolutely no other options, the Swiss government had to step in. They injected $6 billion and created a special fund just to absorb all of UBS's toxic assets. For a bank that built its entire brand on strength and independence, this was the ultimate public humiliation. It had to be rescued by its own government. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom. The 2008 bailout wasn't the end of the pain. It was actually the beginning of a brand new assault.
With public anger against the banks at a fever pitch, the U.S. government turned its full attention to offshore tax evasion, and its #1 target? The institution that had perfected it, UBS.
And the U.S. had a secret weapon, an inside man. A former UBS banker named Bradley Birkenfeld literally walked straight into the Department of Justice and laid out the entire scheme. He explained in detail how he and other bankers were systematically helping wealthy Americans hide billions of dollars from the IRS, and he had the receipts to prove it.
And you have to understand, this wasn't accidental. This was a system, a highly structured, step-by-step playbook for deception. Bankers would help clients open numbered accounts to hide their identity. Then they'd set up shell companies in places like Panama to make ownership almost impossible to trace. They were trained to avoid paper trails, using encrypted laptops and even coded language. It was a masterclass in making huge sums of money completely invisible.
So UBS was completely backed into a corner. With Birkenfeld's testimony and the threat of losing its license to operate in the U.S., they caved. The bank paid a $780 million fine, but honestly, that wasn't the real story. The truly historic, earth-shattering moment was this. UBS agreed to hand over the names of over 4,000 American clients. And that one single act, 100 years of untouchable Swiss banking secrecy, was shattered. Forever.
Okay, so let's recap. By 2011, UBS is an absolute train wreck. Its reputation is in tatters, its business model is broken, and its future is a huge question mark. The bank didn't just need a new CEO, it needed a fixer, a miracle worker. What happened next was one of the most dramatic turnarounds in modern finance, and it led to an even more dramatic final act.
The board brought in Sergio Ermotti, a no-nonsense executive who figured out the problem right away. UBS had turned into a reckless, risk-loving casino, and the house was losing badly. His solution was radical. He slashed the bloated investment bank and refocused the entire company on its original strength, quietly, and dare I say, boringly, managing money for the world's richest people.
But cleaning up a mess this big is never easy. The rot, it turned out, went way deeper than anyone thought. Just as Ermotti's plan was starting to work, bam, another scandal erupted. It was revealed that UBS traders had been part of a massive conspiracy to rig LIBOR, a key global interest rate. The bank got hit with another massive fine, $1.5 billion, proving the cultural cleanup was far from over. But despite all that drama, Ermotti's strategy worked. By the 2020s, UBS was stable again, profitable. And then came the ultimate plot twist. In March 2023, its old rival, Credit Suisse, which had been drowning in its own string of scandals, suddenly collapsed. In a frantic weekend deal brokered by the Swiss government to prevent a global meltdown, UBS bought its century-old competitor for just $3.2 billion, a total fire sale price.
And who do you call to manage this monumental task? Sergio Ermotti, of course. He had actually retired, but they brought him back to oversee the whole integration. It was this incredible full-circle moment. The bank he had rescued from the brink of death was now swallowing its greatest rival, and he was back at the helm of this new, undisputed banking behemoth.
So, that leaves us with this one massive question. UBS has survived near-death experiences multiple times. It outlasted its rivals and then absorbed them, becoming a titan so large that its failure could threaten the entire global system. It has, literally, become too big to fail. But has it truly changed? Has it finally learned its lesson? Or is this new, colossal version of UBS simply setting the stage for an even bigger fall down the line? Only time will tell.